Shalom to the sons and daughters of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and welcome back to another episode of Torah Tuesday. And today's topic is going to be based upon a conversation that I had with our elder Ra'asha. So the title of this lesson is going to be Removing a Man's Landmark. Now, here on Torah Tuesday, we like to go into the law. So this is a law that the Most High have instructed the children of Israel, and not only us, but the other nations as well. And believe it or not, this is more common than you actually think. Even today, back then it was moving a man's landmark, as well as up in today. So before I get into the law and bring out a few scriptures on this, just gonna do a little testimony, or have a little testimony of the conversation I had with our elder Ra'asha. So his neighbor next door is putting up an ADU, and the ADU is like a back house, which is becoming very common out here in California and else places as well. And his neighbor wanted to come over 2 feet onto his property line. Well, you know how that went. Our elders was not having that at all. So he went through the legal aspect of things. He went down and he had a map of the zoning of his area. He also went to the extent of actually measuring out his property line with his neighbor's property line, right? So it went on, and it kind of really moved our elder in the wrong way, kind of rubbed him the wrong way. So long story short, he came with the correct documents. He served his neighbor, and his neighbor had to, I guess, reconstruct the ADU that he was building so that it won't infringe on Ra'asha's property line. So with that being said, I'm going to go right into the law, and then we're just going to say a few words about it. And according to the law, how the Most High has structured and set this up. Okay. Give me 1 minute. Okay. All right. So we're going to go into the book of Deuteronomy. Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 19. And we're going to read verse 14. Now, very interesting, because I had a similar situation as well, where my neighbor built the fence over the property line. So he's on my side of the property line. And the thing is that this fence was put up, or this wall was actually put up before I actually moved in. But the city had came out and wrote him a letter saying that, hey, look, you got to tear this wall down. You're over the property line. And the thing is, he knew that he was over the property line as well. So the city said either you tear it down or you and your neighbor come to a agreement and an understanding that that wall is going to stay based upon his longevity of where he lives and my longevity of where I'm living. So it becomes, like they say, a gentleman's agreement. So had the same similar situation. Like I said, it happened before I got there, even though I don't like it, because that let me know the mind state of my neighbor to actually do something like that. So Deuteronomy chapter 19 and verse 14. It says, thou shalt not remove thy neighbor's landmark, which they of old times have set in thy inheritance, which thou shalt inherit in the land that the Lord thy God giveth thee to possess it. So now that's a law. That's a law. We're going to stay in Deuteronomy and make it a little bit more clear. Stay in Deuteronomy. And we're going to go to Deuteronomy 27. And we're going to read 17. Deuteronomy chapter 27 and verse 17. Cursed be he that cursed be he that removeth his neighbor's landmark. And all the people says, Amen. Now, I want to show a map on how the Most High structured even the 12 tribes of Israel to have their own region within the land of Israel for us to dwell amongst each other. So I want to see this map right here first. Okay. This is a map where the Most High has structured all 12 tribes and he put them in the sequence where he wanted them. Okay. As you can see, he wanted Judah to be in a certain spot. He wanted Ephraim to be in a certain spot. And in the book of Numbers, right, he gives you the breakdown on where he wanted each tribe to set up around the tabernacle of the Most High. So even there was structure then, and there was landmarks, because when he tells you that he wants Gad, Reuben, and Simeon on, let's say, the east side of the tabernacle, that's what he wants. And then even between those three tribes that set on the east side, I'm just saying east, it could be west, but to set on the east side, they cannot cross the boundaries that he set for that particular tribe. They can go visit, but this is where he wanted each tribe to dwell in and to build their houses and to raise their families. But he wanted cohesive amongst the tribes to live amongst each other, right? Because even now, as you can see, well, this is disarray. We're in, Babylon, so totally disarray. But even here, you can see how a lot of confrontation may come between, I'm just going to say, Hispanics and blacks. When I say Hispanics, I mean it could be from Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Chile, Brazil, so on and so forth, South and Central America, because that's where the bulk of our 10 tribe brothers are at this time. And then you have, the bulk of the Southern Kingdom here in the Americas, which came over on the cargo slave ships. And as we live amongst each other, there is a bit of friction, and I'm from Chicago, but when I was raised in the area that I lived in, it was more segregated. Back east is more segregated, where, put it in Lame's terms, black folks stayed over here, Hispanic stayed over here, Polish people was over there, Irish people was over there. You got your Asians, they had their area. So it was more segregated back east than it is here in the West Coast. So this I can understand and see why the Most High had each tribe in their particular areas, and how the cohesiveness and the peace was brought within the 12 tribes of Israel. Because bottom line, we're a cold piece of work. Okay. And once again, I can see the strategy that the Most High actually, put on how he wanted each tribe to be in their own land, as well as when he had the tabernacle, he wanted them to be positioned in the way that he wanted them to be. And also it is a military strategic way as well. When you start to read the book of Numbers, chapter 2. So just wanted to share that. I'm going to share another map on the landmass. Now, this is the landmass. Let's see if I can bring it up a little bit. This is the landmass of Israel. Now, just this portion right here that it shows on the map is fair, but that whole region belongs to the children of Israel. It's called the Fertile Crescent, and that whole region belongs to the children of Israel, which is considered like the land of Canaan. And just read this real quick. It says, see if I can bring it up. Keep jumping. It says, families of Jacob's 12 sons grew into what became the 12 tribes of Israel. Their descendants will encamp from slavery into Egypt and reclaim the land that Bible writers said that God promised Jacob's grandfather, Abraham. I'm sorry, I lost my spot. There we go. It says, I'm giving it to you and to your descendants forever. That's Genesis chapter 13 and verse 15. So just to show how the Most High even had, at the time when we were in Israel, how he had tribes to map out their areas, and that's how they encamped throughout the biblical times, even when Christ was here upon the earth. Okay, so let's go back. And I want to get Numbers. Once again, it says, that's Deuteronomy chapter 27 and verse 17. It says, "Cursed be he that removeth his neighbor's landmark." And all the people shall say, Amen. Now, when we say amen, that means we've taken an oath and we're sworn to obey that particular law. All right, so let's go real quick. Since we've seen the map, I'm gonna go to Numbers real quick. I just want to read Numbers chapter 2. And I'm gonna start at verse 1. Because like I said, the title of it is Removing a Man's Landmark, right? Which is unlawful. You cannot, move your spike to grab your neighbor's property or your neighbor's land to enhance yours. That's against the law. Numbers chapter 2 and verse 1. And the Lord spoke unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, Every man of the children of Israel shall pitch by his own standard, which with the ensign of their father's house. Because we have to realize too, just about, I would say about 90% of the Israelites had a portion of land. Like I said, they had to stay within the boundaries where the Most High said, well, Judah should be in camp here, Simeon should be in camp here, Gad should be in camp here. But out of that, we were given land by the Most High, and then we were to pass that land down throughout our heritage to our future generation. And that's how we actually keep the land in our, family tree. So that's when he says, with the ensign of their father's house. Then it says, far off about the tabernacle of the congregation shall they pitch. So that's what he said. He said, every man of the children of Israel shall pitch their own standard with the ensigns of their father's house. Verse 3. And on the east side toward the rising of the sun shall they of the standard of the camps of Judah pitched throughout their armies. And it says, and Nahashan, the son of Amminadab, shall be the captain of the children of Judah. Okay, excuse me for those names. Can't get them out. But it's just to show you an example of how the Most High structured. He started off with the tribe of Judah, and he wanted the tribe of Judah to be set up on the east side towards the sun. Now, this was the encampment around the tabernacle, but the previous map that I showed, it also showed that Judah had its portion of the land of Israel where he wanted that particular tribe to actually dwell in. All right. So I want to give Proverbs chapter 22 and start at verse 9. And like I said, it's funny because these things are happening today. And if you really look at it, they have this thing they call zoning, so that a particular state can they draw lines, they map out lines of certain districts, and they call them zoning districts or voting districts. And even now today, they're trying to redo those maps and reorganize those lines so that they can capture more votes out of certain areas. And that right there, they having a big thing about it because a lot of it's unlawful, as Esau does. But that shows you the importance of when you're setting up a structure and you have particular zones, zoning laws, landmarks, that those are legally bound, by the law of that particular state or that particular country, or at what we're reading here is of this particular tribes within the nation of Israel. So Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 9. He that hath a bountiful eye shall be blessed, for he giveth of his bread to the poor. Verse 10. I'm sorry. It's supposed to be Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 28. Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 28. Remove not the ancient landmarks which thy father have set up. So that goes back to what we was reading in the book of Numbers, as well as in Deuteronomy. Let's go right over. In Proverbs chapter 23, and I'm going to start at verse 9. Speak not in the ear of a fool, for he will despise the wisdom of thy words. Verse 10, remove not the old landmark, and enter not into the field of the fatherless. Now, what I want to do is I want to go back and I want to read in the LT, the NLT. And I'm going to go back to the book of Deuteronomy 19. Go back to the book of 19. I want to read this in the NLT just to further understand. It says, you must not impose on the accused the sentence he intended to the person. That's not the one I want. Sorry. Here it is. Sorry about that. Deuteronomy 19 and verse 14, which I had read earlier in the KJV. So now I'm in the NLT, and it reads, when you arrive in the land the Lord your God is giving you as your special possession, you must never steal anyone's land by moving the boundaries, markers your ancestors set up to mark their properties. Okay. I'm going to stay in Deuteronomy. I'm going to stay in that same particular book, and I want to read verse 27. Verse 27 and verse 17. Verse 17. Curse is anyone who steals property from a neighbor or by moving a boundary marker. All the people will reply, Amen. See, I found that funny, but by them explaining in little simpler terms, we still get the message about how important it is to leave the landmarks and the boundaries of a person's inheritance of land. And while we're in that same book, I want to read Proverbs, go back to Proverbs. I want to read verse 22. I'm going to read verse 28. And believe it or not, when you here in America, but all around the world, you know, it is crucial, and it's very important that one uphold their land and actually have like you say, a map of their property line, because when you start to go into, let's say, Africa, or if you go down to certain Caribbean islands, where the land is may have some rare minerals on it. Even here in America, you know, I know people who bought land in Texas and places like that, and one of my friends, he was digging for a well, and he all of a sudden he hit a little oil. So he had a little oil on his land. You know, once again, he had to go down there, check out the zoning area so that he can actually put a claim on the minerals that was coming out of that particular land that he had. So it's very crucial to understand the law about how the Most High first set up a man and his heritage and his land. And then you know, as you continue on to see the importance of, you know, having documents and having things in writing, it shows the importance of how you pass it on from one generation to the next generation. So Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 8 in the NLT. Don't cheat your neighbor by moving the ancient boundary markers to set up by previous generation. See, we're going to stay here in Proverbs. We're going to go to 23. Proverbs chapter 23. We're going to read 9 and 10. Actually, we're just going to read 10. Verse 10. Do not cheat your neighbor by moving the ancient boundary landmarks. Do not take the land of the defenseless orphan. So it's even telling you that if someone's mother or father passed away and they may be young, but as in Israel, we still left an inheritance for our children. So it's saying that even though the parents may not be there, may be present, but you shouldn't steal or take advantage because that particular person may be too young to, you know, to come into their inheritance at that time. So that's why the Most High also put in the law, it says, don't take the land of defenseless orphans. See, don't take advantage. So it's just something to think about, Israel. As we continue on in this walk in faith, with the Most High, here at Torah Tuesday, once again, I like to bring out like aspects of the law that we may not be aware of. And if it, moves a person to go on and read further and research further, then that is the message that we're trying to get across here at MOTC. So with that, Israel, I say shalom.